Hey folks, in this video we cover partition by, rank, and dense rank. Now these are called analytical functions. But here's an important point. Anything that you can do with analytical functions, you can also do without them. So here's the big question. Why do you need to know them? Well, there's two really important reasons. Number one, they save you so much time and coding. They save you a lot of time. But number two, and more importantly, it's all they ask you about in SQL interviews. Without knowing analytical functions, you will fail the interview every time. So let's dive right in. Now, what we're going to do, you see this table. Basically, we have an employee table where we have the employee name, their salary, their department, and their gender. But this table is just ordered in the way that people were entered into the database. There's really no easy way to look at this in data mine. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about first rank and dense rank. They're similar, but there is a big difference between them. And then we're going to do partition by at the end, and then you'll see why it's so important. So let's first start with, we'll look at rank. So what rank does, rank is going to start with the number 1, and then it's going to show me based on the order by clause. Now I'm ordering the salary descending, so in other words, it's going to take the highest salary and use that first, and then it's going to put a ranking system. But notice what happens. I run this query. Let me put this up here. Now as you can see here, there's two people that make $898,000, Tony Macaroni and Tapa Sellers, one male and one female. They're both in the sales department, of course. They both have a rank of 1. But do you notice what happens when we get to this third record, Gerple Purple? Or is that Gerple Purple? I guess we'll never know. They make $556,000. Now they're in third place. They are the third record. But you notice rank gives them a number of 3 because two people tied for first place. So you see it skipped over the number 2. So you see, when you use rank as an analytical function, what happens is it can skip over numbers when things get duplicated. And if we look down here, we may see a couple more in 26, it jumps to 28, a whole bunch at 29, and then it jumps to 33. And that's just the way it works because a lot of people have a need for things to work that way. Think about a contest where people tie for first and there's a cash prize. They'd rather give the next person down the cash prize for third place, not second place, if you get what I mean. Now, that's helpful, but what if you wanted this to say second place? Well, there is another function for that, and that's called dense rank. So let's take a look at this. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be saying rank, like we just did, and we're ordering it by salary descending. But now, with dense rank, we're going to do the same thing. But notice what happens when we run this query. See, now we have 2 rows, or excuse me, two columns. Notice that with the first 2 records, we have first, and then third. It jumps to third. But dense rank doesn't skip over. There's no holes in it. It goes first, second. Instead of fourth, it's third. So the basic difference between rank and dense rank can skip over stuff, and dense rank will not skip over stuff. Now, which one is more accurate or more true? It all depends on what your boss or your manager or customer tells you that they need. And the important thing is, the first time you ask them, they probably don't know what they want. So if you want to be really slick, you can ask them the question. They may arbitrarily say, well, do it this way or do it that way. But if you're smart, you'll run the information both ways and show them. And then after they've had a chance to look over the data with a cup of coffee and just kind of stare at it, they'll realize which way makes more sense for what they need to do. But you have to know how to do it both ways. And it's really not that complicated. Just play around with it. Now finally, in the real world, anybody who looks at this data, they're going to look at it and they're going to say, this is nice, but it's not really helpful. Like let's say it's the HR department and they're trying to find out if, the people complaining that men make more money than women all the time, and that used to be a real problem. Things are starting to even out a little bit. But the HR department may say, no, we want to group this by gender, male and female. That's one thing that may come up. But more than likely, what your boss is going to tell you, or your customer, or whoever is paying you, they're going to say, we want to sort this, or we want to group this by department. Well, how do we do that? Well, the way that we do that is by something called partition by, and we're going to show that next, but I just want to go over something really quickly. You don't have to remember that, well, part of this you should remember. Analytical functions in SQL are also known as window functions, but they're not called Windows functions. A window function has to do with SQL. Windows is an operating system, so don't say Windows functions, say window functions. And now this is the part that you don't have to remember. Technically speaking, what I'm showing you here is an analytical function, or two analytical functions. Technically, these are not window functions because you don't really have a true window function, and people may argue with me about this. It's not really a window function until you use partition by, because then it makes more than one window. And let's look at that now. So what I'm going to do, now don't forget, here, let me just copy this so you can see it. Now this will break if I try to run this because I'll have two things with the same name. I'm just going to do this so you can see what's different about it, okay? Yeah, I should have just tabbed that maybe. Okay, see in the first couple of cases, like over here, what we were doing is we were saying rank over and then just order by salary descending, and then we called it rank. But this is saying rank over and then we're saying partition by department. That's kind of like saying group everything by the department, okay? So now we're just going to show rank. We're not going to show dense rank. We're just going to show rank with the partition. And notice how much more useful this is and how much more money you'll get paid when you know how to do this. And this is why partition by is so powerful. Yep, we made a mistake. All right, there we go. I have a comma. Should have commented that out. There we go, boom. Okay, so now let's take a look at this, guys. It breaks everything down. It breaks the rank down by the department. So advertising, there's 4 people. 2 of them make $32,000. Jeannie McSweeney and Ida Orida. They each make the highest amount in their department, and then it skips over to 3 and then 4. But then when we get to the cafeteria people, it starts it over again. And then we get to HR, and it starts it over again. And then we get to these dudes in the legal department that nobody likes. It starts over again. So see, that's what partition does. And so now this rank, this set of ranks, so it's a field, and it's being partitioned by, this is what we really mean by a window. It's a window of values, and then it starts over again. Now, you could do this without using rank and without using partition by, but good luck with that. It would take you probably a half an hour to write something in test because you'd have to use a temp table. You'd have to use an identity key when you make the temp table. You'd have to loop through it, not with a cursor, don't be crazy, like with a while loop. But it would just be a nightmare trying to do this. Rank and partition by are part of the SQL specification. It's all ANSI compliant. So it's there. So just use it. Now, let me get rid of this. We don't need this anymore. Well, I'll leave it up in case you want to look at it. But this, let me uncomment this and just show you. And you already know what's going to happen. When we get to advertising, now, and I better put the comma back. Boy, those commas will kill you. Okay, comma drama. That's what we like to call that. You know that when we do the dense rank now, it's going to go 1, 1, 2, 3. So let's take a look. Boom. And see, again, here's the difference. Because we're using partition by, this whole chunk, both of these, like this is a window. To get all technical, that's like a window. That's a window. And that's a window. But the rank and the dense rank, even here, it only looks different in this case when 2 people tie for a certain position. This one skips over. This one doesn't have any holes in it. So folks, that's the whole deal, soup to nuts, with rank and dense rank and partition by. Now there's other cool things that you're going to be learning about, like row number and all this other fun stuff. But just for now, just kind of digest this and understand the difference between rank and dense rank. Because one of the first things that they'll ask you on an interview is, show me how to do this and don't skip anything, and then you know it's dense rank. Or show it to me both ways. And it's so easy. You just have to get used to what the syntax looks like. Because if you do it a couple of times and then leave it for a week and come back, you're going to forget what the syntax looks like. So you just have to do a lot of exercises so that when they test your abilities, you can just rip right through it. And then you will get a job that you love, I promise.